For almost 10 years, Trevor Engelson kept quiet. He moved on with his life, started fresh, and never tried to jump back into the drama of his past with Meghan Markle. But there's only so long someone can stay silent. And people close to him say he hit his limit the day he realized everyone only knew her side of what happened, not his side. And definitely not the side his family tried to warn him about way before their marriage crashed and burned. For years, people asked questions. Why did Trevor's family step back during the relationship? Why did they become distant? Why did they seem unsure about everything? Why didn't their support match Meghan's charm? Now that Trevor is finally opening up about what he went through, the answer is becoming crystal clear. This isn't about being jealous. It's not about holding grudges. It's about a family who could see what their son couldn't, and a truth that wouldn't stay hidden forever. And it all starts in a place Trevor never saw coming. The moment his family felt something was off, behind closed doors, people who were close to Trevor back then say Meghan told him something that would completely change what he imagined for their future together. She supposedly told him she couldn't have kids. For most couples, news like that would lead to long talks, crying, lots of questions, trips to the doctor or something. But Trevor didn't do any of that. He didn't push her about it, didn't fight, didn't ask her to get other medical opinions. He just accepted what she told him because loving her meant accepting the future she painted for them. He changed his dreams right away. He lowered his expectations. He rewired his whole heart to prepare for a life with no children. And through all of it, he never threw her confession back in her face. He never brought it up during fights. He never let it create problems between them. He trusted her completely, totally, without any doubt. But years down the road, when Meghan had not one but 2 kids with Prince Harry, that old conversation hit Trevor like a broken mirror finally falling apart. People close to him say Trevor wasn't mad. He was confused, lost, hurt in a way that gets under your skin and never really goes away. That moment became the first real crack in how he understood their marriage. A crack that had been hiding in the shadows. A truth he never doubted suddenly became the biggest question mark of his entire life. And that question slowly pulled him into the part of the story nobody could ignore anymore. Every marriage ends in its own way, but very few end the way Trevor's did. Quietly, out of nowhere, without a single word of explanation. After nearly 10 years together, after years of plane rides, giving things up, and holding on to hope, Trevor didn't get one last conversation. He didn't get a chance to ask why or what went wrong. He didn't even get a phone call. Instead, one day, a package showed up at his front door. Small, didn't weigh much, looked like nothing special. Inside that package was Meghan's wedding ring. No letter, no text, no goodbye. Just a symbol of their whole relationship, sent through the mail like it was some random thing being returned to a store. People close to Trevor say this moment crushed him worse than any fight ever could have. Not because of the ring itself, but because of what it meant. She had already left the marriage way before she put that ring in the mail. She had made up her mind quietly, privately, without letting him be part of how their story ended. And when Trevor opened that box, everything his family had picked up on suddenly made heartbreaking, total sense. The emotional distance, the one-sided effort, the uncomfortable feeling they couldn't put into words. The marriage wasn't broken in that moment. It had been broken way before. The ring was just the proof. Up until this point, Trevor had no real answer for why Meghan pulled away. The ring in the mail told him she was done, but it didn't tell him why. That understanding came later, bit by bit, shockingly, through rumors from people who knew Meghan before her royal life started. According to these sources, years before Meghan ever met Prince Harry, she supposedly made a vision board laying out the life she wanted. Vision boards are usually filled with dreams, goals, things that motivate you, pictures of trips or jobs people hope to have. But this one was different. People who claim they saw it say that right smack in the middle of the board was Prince Harry. Not like a celebrity she had a crush on, not like some fantasy, but like part of a specific, planned-out future. Word from people familiar with the board describe it like a blueprint, not random dreams thrown together, but a clear path Meghan wanted to follow. She had researched a royal family. She had mapped out her options. She had pictured herself not just next to a guy, but living in a completely new world. And suddenly, Trevor understood the change he had felt years earlier. Meghan wasn't drifting without direction. She wasn't lost. She wasn't confused. She was heading towards something huge, something royal, and he was just the chapter she needed to close before moving forward. If the vision board made people question her motives, what supposedly happened next made people question her game plan. When Meghan met Prince Harry for the very first time, insiders claim she showed up wearing Princess Diana's favorite perfume, a scent that was deeply connected to Harry's childhood memories, his grief, and the emotional pain of losing his mom. Smells are powerful. They can throw someone back in time instantly. They can make a person feel safe, familiar, connected, even if they don't totally get why. To Harry, that first meeting felt like fate. Warm, comforting, strange in a way he couldn't put his finger on. But to people who knew Meghan well, it felt different. They swear it wasn't random. It was planned. A small, quiet choice made to create an emotional reaction. Not manipulation in some loud or aggressive way. Nothing pushy or obvious. Just a quiet understanding of how memory works and which part of Harry's heart to carefully tug on. And that moment worked. Harry didn't just fall for Meghan. He fell for the feeling she created. A connection tied to the mother he lost and the comfort he was searching for. When Trevor heard about this detail years later, according to people close to him, a painful pattern suddenly made sense. The quiet scheming he felt during their marriage, the steady pulling away from their life together, the sudden ending. Everything he once saw as confusing now looked intentional. Because if Meghan was this calculated with Harry, how calculated had she been with him? For years, Harry stood next to Meghan like a bodyguard. He defended her against the media, the palace, and every person who questioned her version of events. He believed he knew her better than anyone else. Believed the world got her all wrong. Believed her past was clean. But when Trevor finally broke his silence, something changed. According to whispers from people close to the Montecito house, Harry didn't react with anger. He reacted with confusion. Deep, quiet confusion. The kind that doesn't involve yelling or fighting, but involves long silences and going off alone. Sources say Harry withdrew into himself. He stopped immediately jumping to defend Meghan. He stopped explaining everything away. Instead, he started going back over moments in his head, interviews, conversations, decisions, trying to make Trevor's revelations fit with the version of Meghan he thought he knew. One insider claims Harry said something that cut through the quiet like a knife. Stop blaming the palace for everything. That one sentence showed more than any argument ever could. It showed he was tired. It showed he had doubts. It showed a crack in the total trust he used to have. For the first time, Harry wasn't just listening to Meghan. He was starting to see the problems. And all of it started with Trevor, the one guy who really knew her before the makeover. What the world has heard so far, the supposed confession, the emotional imbalance, the ring in the mail, the blueprint, is only part of the story. Rumors from people close to Trevor suggest he's holding on to way more, way darker, way deeper, way harder to brush off. Supposedly, Trevor has kept the worst details private because of self-control or respect, or just because he didn't want to live in the past. But according to insiders, that self-control is wearing thin. There's quiet talk of wells, a book, a second sit-down interview, paperwork, proof, timelines, personal letters, and moments he's never shared publicly. People close to him say Meghan's attempts to shut him up legally, socially, or through pressure behind the scenes might be the exact thing pushing him to finally reveal everything. This isn't a guy looking for attention. This isn't a guy trying to get revenge. This is a guy who spent years carrying the truth by himself and now sees the world is finally ready to listen. And if everything he knows came out, the story wouldn't be about silence anymore. It would be about exposure. This is where everything connects. The past, the present, and the truth that won't stay buried. Trevor's silence was never about being weak. It was never about being scared. It was never about running away. It was loyalty even after the marriage was over. It was dignity even after the ring came in the mail. It was moving on even when she chose not to give him closure. But the moment he finally spoke up, the story started to change. Not because he yelled, not because he attacked her, but because he lived the version of Meghan the world wasn't allowed to see. And his voice has a weight her interviews never could match. For Meghan, reinventing herself was survival. For the royal family, reinventing herself is rebellion. But for the truth, reinventing yourself has limits. Trevor's story marks the edge of that limit. Because for the first time, a man from her past didn't stay quiet. He didn't vanish. He didn't protect the image she built. He stepped forward calmly and clearly and let the truth come out for the first time in years. And now the world is watching the cracks spread, watching the stories change, watching the silence fall apart. Because if Trevor, the guy who knew her before the fame, before the palace, before the reinvention, is finally telling his story, who else might speak up next? This isn't the end of Meghan's story. It's the beginning of her reckoning. The first domino has fallen, and the rest never stay standing for long.